start arguing back and forth, and I eventually pull her back in the car. They go and they park at the end of the McDonald's in the parking lot. I could see him right at the end of the drive-thru. And I'm like, listen, we're just going to get our stuff and we're going to go. I said, don't do anything crazy, please. So the guy at the window, he says, is everything all right? You guys good? I'm like, yeah, everything's fine. We're good. So get our stuff. I go to pull around and just past them. And as I pulling by them, I'm looking in my side view mirror. I see them throw a bottle at my car. Instantly, I'm like, it's go time.
On today's episode, we have Brandon Schneider, a fellow Connecticut resident, to share his story of childhood trauma and how it led to a troubled life as a young adult, including brandishing a gun at a high school party, which lands him in his first prison stint, and how a fight at the McDonald's parking lot leads to a felony assault charge and multiple years in Connecticut state prisons. I'd like to thank Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service, for sponsoring Locked In with Ian Bick. Skip all the meal prep hassle and get Factor's delicious, fresh, never frozen meals delivered to your door. I absolutely love Factor meals and eat them multiple times a week, and with my promo code, you can too. Head to factormeals.com/lockedin50 and use code LOCKEDIN50 to get 50% off. Thank you, everyone, for all the love and the support you give to this podcast week after week. I hope you sit back, relax, and get ready to lock in with Brandon Schneider. Brandon, welcome to the show today, man. Pleasure having you. You are another Connecticut guest. We've had quite a few Connecticut guests on the show the last few weeks, and I've been reading some of the comments, and the audience has been loving the Connecticut stories. So where are you coming to us from today?
From Milford, Connecticut, actually. That's where I was born and raised my whole life. So, yeah.
What's Milford like for people that aren't from Connecticut?
Milford is a pretty diverse town. We're in between New Haven and Bridgeport. So we have everything there. We have our own mall. It's by the beach. I love it there, honestly. I'll never leave there. I was born, raised, and that's probably where I'm going to die. They're going to bury me there as well. But it's a great town, It used to not be as good. Because I grew up in the 90s. I was born in the 80s, so it was a different time back then, Everybody was into partying and whatever, So
How do you guys grow up? Like, whole family, parents together, upper class, lower class, middle class?
I would say we were lower middle class. So stepping back into that would be, my family, we had a lot of, it was a broken home for sure. I didn't find out my stepfather was my stepfather until I was about 8 years old. I always thought he was my real father. Because I found a book that said State of Connecticut on it, and it had my name with my first name and what was my mother's maiden name on it. And I'm like, what is this? And she's like, well, I didn't really want to tell you. I was going to wait until you were older, but, your father adopted you to his last name, and, that's pretty much how that happened. And, yeah, he was an abusive dude. He was definitely...
Your stepfather was?
Oh, yeah.
How so?
So it progressed from when I was younger. From about 3 years old, I remember coming downstairs to see my grandma to show her my ass because it was black and blue. And then it just got worse over time. I believe because of their relationship, he took a lot of it out on me. Physically, I've been slammed through my back door. the yelling, all my friends were scared of this dude. Like, no one wanted to come to my house ever. Like, that's how bad it was. But the last straw, like, probably when I was about 15, 16, I remember we came home. I was with my mom and my brother, and we walk in the back door, and you hear this loud hissing sound. So my mom looks at me, and she's like, stay right here. She goes and walks down the hallway into our living room. She comes bolting back out. Get out now. We run out the house and jumped in the car, and we took off. She told me that he was sitting in there with a propane tank on with a Zippo lighter, ready to blow us up. That was the last straw for that.
Did the house blow up?
No. But that's just the psychological, man, being threatened with 2 baseball bats. This dude used to smash up our house. Like, it was crazy.
Did your mom know he was abusing you?
Oh, yeah. She would. It's crazy because my mom, I love her to death. That's my rock. But she would try to, like, push me, too, to, like, you know, go hug him and, you know, show affection towards him. Like, no, I'm good. I don't want to do that, you know?
Looking back on it now that you're older, why do you think women stay in abusive relationships like that, even when their kids at stake, too? Because now it's not only her well-being, but it's your well-being, too.
I feel like she stayed to try to make it work because she wanted her family to be okay, and she thought that maybe it would just kind of roll over and get better, but it never did. So, yeah.
That's got to be tough.
Well, yeah, I mean, it sucked. It made me rebel, for sure. And that's where I ended up getting into a lot of trouble. You know, I never wanted to be home. I ended up dropping out of school in 9th grade and running the streets, partying. That's all we did like to do back then, too, you know.
Now, do you think you would have had an even worse effect on you if she didn't tell you that that was your real dad? Or it wasn't your real dad?
Do I think it would have had a worse effect on me?
Yeah, because think that if you didn't find that out and you thought he was your real dad, then you could have
maybe tried to make it work.
Or you could have made it in your mind that you became a troubled person because your own biological father was troubled.
Well, my actual biological father, he committed suicide when I was a year and a half old.
Oh, wow.
So my mom was married to him, mind you. She left him because he was a raging alcoholic, pretty much. And crazy story, too, my grandfather, years later, committed suicide the same exact way. He went parked in front of a train.
Grandfather on your father's side? Do you think that runs in it gets passed down genetically?
Oh, yeah. Those thoughts could be in my head for sure. I've been there, you know. I've, thought about it and, because I've been in really rough situations in my life to where I'm like, where am I going with my life? Is my life even worth it to keep going? I've been in those shoes and, and I think of my biological father at the time, like he wasn't strong enough to make it through that. So he ended up, taking the easy way out and,
Did you have siblings at all?
I have one brother, yes.
Were you guys close during this?
Yes, very close. It's funny because I was the one that always used to get the beatings, but his father is my stepfather. So we have 2 separate fathers.
So are you guys
same mother,
half brothers? Okay. But the same mother.
But the same mother.
So
yes.
He's older or younger?
Younger.
Younger, okay.
4 years.
How did he feel about the relationship with your mom and his father?
He is very timid, so a lot of the times he didn't say much. So he pretty much just would run and hide, because I was the one always taking all the, the abuse, the everything.
Were you a shy kid back then?
I mean, I was pretty outgoing. I loved being outdoors and running around the neighborhood with my friends. We would play manhunt, stick wars in the woods. Like, you know, I liked being out of the house. Anything that didn't keep me in the house, because I knew I didn't want to be around him, and I would always be outside riding my bike, playing sports with all the other neighborhood kids. So I wasn't a shy kid. I definitely was more outgoing than my brother is.
How to make you how to make you feel that your friends didn't want to come over to your house?
It sucked. I had a couple of my friends that one time, I think we were about 14 years old, and we were smoking weed in my room, and we didn't know he was coming home. I heard his I heard his truck pull up. So I said, hide in the closet. They went and hid in the closet, and he smelled the weed. So he came right upstairs, threw me across my room onto my bed, and he actually had 2 baseball bats in his hand at the time. And I'm 14. I probably weighed 130 pounds soaking wet. He's a big dude. So when I land on the bed and he just comes over with them 2 bats, man, I thought I was going to lose my legs right there. And I got 2 of my friends sitting in the closet. He doesn't even know they're in there. So after that happened, and then he stormed off, they ended up coming out, and I was like, I snuck him out the back door and shit. And I seen him a couple days later, like, yo, you okay? Like, they really felt bad, because they all have their families that are nice families, and they have good things going on in their families. They have good jobs, and I'm over here like dealing with, this as a 12-year-old. Like,
Did you envy that? Did it make you feel like, why am I not good enough to have that?
for sure. Oh, for sure. I long for that at points in times, because I see that in other people. I'm like, man, I wish I could have that, you know? But it definitely made me rebel a lot, for sure.
Yeah. So 9th grade, you drop out. Where does life go for you next?
So after I dropped out, God, that would have made me. So I caught a few cases, possession of weed, and I was running around. I was burglarizing houses and stuff like that.
By yourself?
No, with friends, and I ended up catching a few cases. I was on probation, and then I ended up, while I was on probation, I had another case. I was at a party, and it was a friend's party, and his parents were away, and everybody was drinking and having a good time. Everybody was hanging out. He left for a little while, and I went into his room, and I was hanging out in there with a girl, and everybody started breaking everything in the house and acting crazy. And a little backstory, I knew that his mom kept her pistol in her top drawer because he showed it to me. So you know where this is going.
Yeah.
Yes. So me, at the time, I was drinking too. Drunk. Everybody's drunk at the party.
How old are you?
God, I was 15, 16 maybe.
Okay.
So I go into the room and I grab the gun and I come out and I start waving it in there and tell everybody to get out. My intentions weren't to hurt anybody, Plus, I'm 16 at the time, young, dumb, drinking. Everybody ran out, and the police were called. I ended up not getting arrested then, but I knew that charge was coming. So we ended up, me, my mom, and my brother, thought it would be a great idea to pack up and move to Florida and run.
Did your mom know?
Oh, she knew.
Oh, wow.
But just like everything kind of snowball effect into, up into that point where I'm like, I'm not going to go to jail. Like, I'm going to go on the run. So I go down there. We're in Florida for about almost a year. I was working and living down there with, it was my grandmother, my mom, and my brother at the time. And they end up, doing their detective work and finding out maybe through mutual friends, or I'm not exactly sure, but they found out I was in Florida. And then at the age of 18, they arrested me down there, and I had to wait to get extradited back from Florida to Connecticut. So I was down there for maybe about 2 weeks until they came picked me up. 18. I had to fly back on a regular commercial, shackled, right? With 2 police going on a plane. I'm 18. I look really young then too. You know, with no hair on my face, I probably looked maybe like I was 15 at the age of 18.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I have people staring at me in the airport. I'm all shackled up, sitting next to them. They tried covering it with like a freaking jacket.
So it's like the TV shows.
Yeah, they flew me right back on a regular commercial
what are
airplane
the
with
agents
everybody.
Wearing? What are they wearing? Or
They
the
were just
cops?
dressed in regular.
Suits or something.
Yeah,
Were they allowed?
I think they had their badge on. I don't remember if they had their guns
on the plane. Okay.
This was in, now mind you, this was in 2000.
So things were different back then. Yeah.
This is a long time ago.
Pre 9/11.
Pre 9/11. No, I'm sorry, this was 2001. It was after 9/11.
Okay.
Yep. So, but yeah, then flying back on a regular commercial plane with, you know, like.
What was the charge?
So for the what was it? Give me a sec here.
Yeah.
We're going back, 2001. That was, so I had the burglaries, I had possession, I had a VOP, and the
Maybe unauthorized use of a firearm or something like that.
yeah, I forgot exactly what it was, but it was to that extent.
And that was a
yes.
felony.
It was a felony, correct? Yeah.
So they bring you back. What happens?
I go to county jail, and I'm waiting, going back and forth to court there, and I ended up copping out to 10 years suspended after 4 with 5 years probation for that.
They gave a 16, 17-year-old that long?
Well, I caught those cases. Those cases were from when I was 16 and 17.
Mm.
But when they brought me back, I was 18. They charged me as an adult.
They're able to charge you as an adult even though you committed that?
They charged me as an adult, yes.
Wow. So what's it like to go to county jail, from county jail to court? Like, describe that process from the morning when they, like, say you're going to court that day.
Call it bullpen therapy. Yeah, it sucks. So you get up early in the morning, then they sit you in the rooms with 100 other people who are going to court for whatever they're going to court for, and you're waiting. Everybody's complaining about their court cases. It sucks. And then you get on the ice cream truck, you go to whatever courthouse you're going to, then you sit there and you wait. And then you're wherever there, and for where I was, it was below the courthouse. You had to wait. And then they bring you up for the 10 minutes. They may just continue your case because, you're not getting sentenced, or you're not, you're going to have to come back anyway. Then you go back downstairs. They feed you bologna and cheese sandwiches.
Which aren't that bad.
No. I cannot.
You don't like it?
No.
I love a good, like bologna and cheese
Maybe
sandwich.
from bologna out here, but that bologna is no. And back then, they used to put these peppercorn in there. Like,
Okay, that's weird.
yeah, very. And it had a green tint to it. I never ate it.
So
I take the bologna off, and I'll eat the cheese with just the bread. I'm good with that.
I need your attention for a minute, folks. This past July, I tried Factor meals for the first time, and I fell in love. Now I look forward to my Factor meal delivery every week, and as someone who went to prison for lying and is now traumatized by the thought of lying, you could trust me when I say that there has not been one Factor meal that I've tried that I have not enjoyed. This bustling holiday season, you might be looking for nutritious, flavor-filled meals to fuel you on jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service, can help you eat well for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. With chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door, you'll save time and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while tackling all your holiday to-dos. This December, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered to your door, ready in just 2 minutes. No prep, no mess. Head to factormeals.com/lockedin50 and use code LOCKEDIN50 to get 50% off your order. Guys, make sure you use my promo code to get these magnificent savings this holiday season. Not only is it the holiday season, but I've been busy building my own media company and production studio, so the last thing on my mind is meal prepping. So I depend on Factor's fresh, never frozen meals delivered straight to my door. They're ready in just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat and enjoy. I love seeing that Factor meal delivery box waiting for me at my door each and every week. It's the highlight of my day when those meals come in. Use my official promo code to treat yourself to high-quality, delicious meals over the holidays. Choose from 35-plus chef-crafted meals every week that support a healthy lifestyle and meet your meal preferences, whether it's calorie smart, vegan, and veggie, protein plus, and more wholesome options. Don't count these meals out until you try them. And let me just warn you, you're going to fall in love. Are you looking for calorie-conscious options over the holidays that don't skimp on flavor? Try delicious, dietitian-approved, calorie-smart meals with around or less than 500 calories per serving. Or need an extra boost to support your wellness goals and feel your best during the holidays? Try Protein Plus meals with 30 grams of protein or more per serving. Unlike other meals, everyone, these meals fill you up and make you not feel sluggish afterwards, which is a big reason why I love Factor meals. Head to factormeals.com/lockedin50 and use code LOCKEDIN50 to get 50% off your order. Thank you again to Factor Meals for sponsoring the Locked In with Ian Bick podcast. Sit back, relax, and continue enjoying my episode with Brandon Schneider.
Then you wait for your bus back to go back to county, and it's a long day, you know?
And you're not just waiting on your case, you're waiting on all the individuals that came with
Everybody.
you.
Correct. Yeah.
Do you think they make it that long to get someone to take a plea deal?
I mean, probably, you know, because they want to see how long you're going to hold out.
Because it's miserable to be waking up because they wake you up at what, like 5 in the morning, something?
5, 6. Yeah, 6 in the morning. Because I used to, at one point in time, I mean, I've been to jail twice, or prison twice, and I had to go to court from Big Cheshire, and they wake you up even earlier. And Big Cheshire is the level 4. So you have to wake up really early, because then you go pick up people from other prisons, and then you go to county to pick up those people, and then you go to your court, and then you go back to county. Then you got to wait for a bus to take you back to your prison.
I remember when I was in like holdover, the guys would just say, I'm refusing to go. They would refuse to cuff up. I mean, now after COVID, they have virtual hearings where it's a lot easier, probably more cost effective.
For sure.
Because they had to have guards transport people every single day, 5 days a week to court.
Yeah. It's a big money expense that they do pretty good on.
So you end up taking the plea deal you signed for those years?
Yeah, I ended up copping out to the 10 after 4. And then, because I was in Bridgeport County, man, that place is and back in 2001, 2002, it was, I mean, it's probably still dumpy now, but it was really bad. They had North Wing, which they knocked down and they rebuilt. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
No, I've never been in Connecticut prisons.
So in Bridgeport County, they have the main building. Then they have 2 trailers, which are like Fairmont. They're like low bond. The main building houses, they have 2 dorms, Memorial 1 and Memorial 2. Then they also have the blocks, which is like high bond. And then they also had North Wing, which was like, it could be either low bond or not super high bond, but like 200,000 or less, I believe. Don't quote me on it because it's been a long time since I've, even been there. But I ended up going to North Wing. It was like, I would compare it to like 150-year-old basement. Yes, like it was dingy, disgusting, and nasty. And they used to have windows, plastic, that you could open, and you could actually talk to people on the street. Like, that's how old this building was.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had this, it was 4 wings, and then they had the basement where you initially start. The basement's the worst because you just want to go, upstairs and be in either a regular cell or it was disgusting. But
Wow. So what's your like prison experience like?
so, well, which time?
The first time, for the 4 years.
So for the 4 years, I ended up after I copped out and got sent up the way to. I went to MYI, and I'm sure you heard MYI before. There was a guy on your podcast before who spoke about it.
Yeah, a couple
Gladiator School, and everybody says the same thing. Oh, it's Gladiator School, but really, it's just a bunch of young individuals who came from either broken homes or, we all were the same, and everybody was just, trying to do their time. Yeah, there was fights there, but I mean,
Are they trying to scope you out the first day, like some of the guys have talked about on the show?
oh yeah, they'll definitely push you. I mean,
Did they push you?
no, when I first went in, I went in late too, so like everybody was just looking out their door. No one really said anything to me. I went in my cell and, talked to my cellie, and no one really fucked with me. So
Are you scared at all?
of what at that time?
Yeah.
At first, yeah, a little bit, because you hear Gladiator School, I'm gonna have to fight. Like, I mean, I've been fighting my whole life, so if I gotta fight somebody, it's not a big deal. Like, whatever.
Now, who tells you it's Gladiator School?
All the
inmates
older
or
heads.
So the older like kids?
No,
Or-
the older, like people who wouldn't go there, like all the older inmates.
And what are they saying? Welcome to Gladiator School?
No, they're like, oh, when you go there, you're gonna be fighting every day. I'm like, great. Now I'm gonna have to fight and I'm thinking in the back of my mind, but I'm like, it can't be much worse than county because, everybody here. There was plenty of fights in county too.
I give people like you credit because I'm not built like that, or at least I wasn't back then. Like I wasn't going into prison thinking I'm fighting and stuff like that.
Right.
So for you guys, a lot of the guys that come on the show, they're ready to go.
You have to be because you don't really know. I mean, you're subjecting yourself to, possibly have to fight. You don't know. People will test you for sure, and if you don't stand your ground and be stern, they're gonna notice that. And they're definitely going to take advantage of that. I mean, I'm sure you know that. It's not, if you, like I said, if you're stern and you stand on your own, most of the time, no one wants to mess with you anyway. And a lot of times, as being a white kid from Milford, you're getting looked at automatically like, who's this little white kid from Milford? Maybe we should push up on him. But then they find out you're not just in there for like, just drugs and robbing or stealing from somebody. You're actually kind of, I wouldn't say about that life, but like you'll get it in, and they realize that and they know who to push and who not to.
How are like younger individuals treated that have like a rape charge or a sexual assault charge in prison?
So my experience in Connecticut, they have a jail that is specifically for sex offenders.
Really?
It's called Brooklyn, yes. And they get treated way better than any of the whole inmate population. They get to order ice cream and pizza and watch movies on the weekends.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I mean,
I don't think it's like that now, though, is it? Because like I have a friend that he has a friend who is in prison for a sexual assault charge. And they're throwing him in with killers and murderers and all
depends
this.
on what level too.
Mhm.
If you're you'll never go below a level 3. You cannot be a level 2 inmate in the state of Connecticut. I don't know about any other states, but you can't be a level 2 inmate with a sexual assault crime, whether it's towards women, children, or anything. Your level will never drop below a 3.
Okay.
So you'll always stay in either a level 3 or level 4, or they have a 5, which I've never been to.
Now, this is early 2000s. What's commissary like back then? What was like the biggest staple item? Because brands have evolved since then.
It's pretty much all still the same. I mean, your ramen noodles, your rice, your tuna, your the beef sausages. But they used to come with a Christmas package that you could buy where there was like different items on there that you normally couldn't get, and it was only around Christmas time that you could get it. So everybody would be hyped, trying to get trying to get money sent home so that they could get the couple extra items.
Yeah, and the feds, they give you a whole Christmas bag for free. Yeah, we got they walk around like the day before Christmas or 2 days before the unit staff go on vacation.
Yeah.
It's a saran wrap bag. They've gotten smaller in recent years, but it's all like it's the Keebler's cookies, it's the hostesses. It's like a nice pack. It's like a $40 worth of commissary you're getting for free.
For free?
Yeah. And then the ones that are religious get it and then sell it to individuals. People will sell their Christmas bag a year in advance and say, yo, give me, like 20 mackerels, ramen noodles, whatever for that Christmas bag.
So that they could get that.
Yeah, because like the Muslims won't accept it because it's the holiday. The Jewish folks won't accept it. So things like that.
Yeah. Federal is different from state time, for sure. There's not a lot of programming in state time to like, when you reintegrate back into society. They have the halfway houses, and ultimately it's really up to you to really turn your life around, I feel, which I have. So
were you forced into like a GED program or anything?
No, I actually went and got my GED when I came home. So after I went to MYI, I turned 20. It was about when I turned 20. They ship you out because you're old enough now to go to adult prison. I ended up going to a level 2 prison, and I did the rest of my time there, and I went to a halfway house where I started working, and I was able to study, and I got my GED at Central in Bridgeport.
I'm surprised they didn't make you take the classes while you were...
When you're in MYI, they do have school, but like you could, most of the time the kids were just going there just to get out of the cell. Like you do have to go to school, but like you don't have to,
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to, they can't make you do anything.
So out of those 4 years, how much time do you actually end up doing on that first sentence?
I did 2 years.
You did 2, you come home, what happens next?
I started working at a fish market.
A fish market? What were you doing at the fish market?
Cleaning dishes, doing whatever.
Where was this, in like Fairfield or something?
No, I was in Stratford. I'm at the halfway house, and I was taking the bus back and forth. I came home. My mom at the time, she doesn't work. She doesn't, have any, she financially doesn't have it. So I don't have any backing there really. But my uncle, who was kind enough to take me in, I knew I was going to eventually go there after the halfway house. So I'm working at the fish market and going back and forth, and I realized that instead of taking a bus, I ended up riding my bike back and forth because it was easier and faster actually too, because the two cities are really close to each other, or towns. It's Bridgeport and Stratford. So I would ride my bike through the hood all the way to work every day. So just a little white kid, 18. At the time, I was 20, so riding back and forth. But I started to work again and get my life back together. I was staying with my uncle, and one of my other uncles took me under his wing. He would do side work in construction, and I started working with him and learning to work with my hands, and I took a lot out of that. I worked with him for probably like, I don't know, a good year, and I ended up, we did some plumbing stuff too as well, some HVAC stuff, and I was like, wow, this is pretty easy work. I could do this, why not? So I ended up going into plumbing, and I was working and doing plumbing then, and I was still on parole. And let's see, that's when I started dating this girl, and we were together. I ended up moving out of my uncle's house and kind of staying with her and her dad. And she liked to party. We both. I worked. She worked. We would go out on the weekends and drink, have fun. But she was definitely a firecracker, and being someone that I kind of like fighting sometimes. So she's also has that same mentality. So we were like pretty toxic together, I would say. And I got in a few fights with just dudes just because of, you know, she would run her mouth. Like, she was the type, let me tell you, we'd be walking in the mall and a guy would check her out. She's like, "You're not going to say nothing to him?" And now I feel I got to say something and, you know, cause a problem when it's really not that serious. There was other times that shit would happen and, you know, I end up got into one fight at a party because something silly with a guy that's like I'm not even trying to fight anybody. I'm just trying to have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Then one night after partying, we come back from partying and we're like, "Well, let's stop and get some food at McDonald's." And we're waiting in line and there's a car ahead of us. So she starts, I'm driving, she's in the passenger seat. She starts beeping my horn at them because they're taking so long. And mind you, it's like 1 a.m, you know. So she sticks her head out the window. There was a girl in the driver's seat. She popped her head out the window and they're arguing back and forth. And I'm like, "Yo, what are you doing? Like, chill out. It's not that serious. You're starting shit with people for nothing." So they start arguing back and forth. And I eventually pull her back in the car. They go and they park at the end of the McDonald's in the parking lot. I could see them right at the end of the drive-thru. And I'm like, "Listen, we're just going to get our stuff and we're going to go." I said, "Don't do anything crazy, please." So the guy at the window, he says, "Is everything all right? You guys good?" I'm like, "Yeah, everything's fine. We're good." So get our stuff. I go to pull around and just pass them. And as I pulling by them, I'm looking in my side view mirror. I see them throw a bottle at my car. Instantly, I'm like, "It's go time." I threw my car in park. I reach in the back. I grab the wrench because I have tools. I hand her a wrench.
You're in your girl at wrench.
Yep. Well, in my mind, right, I'm thinking they have bottles. They have weapons. Like, you know, that's if it's going to be that to that extent, then we should be prepared. And no one's going to just throw shit at my car, like. So we stop, we hop out. She runs over and and mind you, I have a knife on me. So I brandish my knife and I say 1-on-1 because there was 2 girls and there was 1 guy. I didn't know there was even a guy in the car at the time. I just thought it was 2 chicks.
And this is in the middle of the drive-thru.
Well, not in the middle of the drive-thru. It was in the back in the parking lot. So she runs up, she hits her in the head with the wrench, and the wrench at some point gets dropped, and they're tussling, they're fighting. I have my knife out, and the guy and other girl clearly see that. Like, let them fight. No one's jumping, let that be what it is. And someone drove by behind me and yo, the cops are coming. I'm like, "Oh, great." So I go over there. They have each other by the hair at this time. And I go over there to grab her to get out of there. Now, I don't know if this guy thought that maybe I was going to do something else, maybe, try to stab somebody, but that was not my intentions. I'm on parole at the time, mind you. I'm trying to get out of Dodge. Like, let's go. So when I go over there, at some point in time, he picked up the wrench and cracked me over the 2 girls, hit me on the top of my head. And I saw a white flash, and when I came back to, I just seen him, and I stabbed him in his head. If it was a little farther up, it would have been in his temple, but it was right about here, and it went into his skull, and it lacerated his brain. Yeah, it was pretty serious. But when he stepped back, and he was like, "Why did you do that?" And at the point in time, I didn't know I was leaking from my head, but I knew I got hit with something because I've been in fights. I've been punched. I've been punched by pretty big dudes. You know, I can take a beating, but that was not no punch in the head. I knew it instantaneously. So it's either, you know, fight or flight at that point for me. And I chose to fight back. So we end up getting in the car, running, getting in the car, drive down the street. I throw the knife out the window. We go to her house, and I'm in full panic mode now. Like, great, you know, they're going to find me. What am I going to do? I'm bugging on her. So we're at her house, and I call one of my friends who still was up. He drove by the McDonald's. He said, bro, it's all taped off right now. There is about 20 cop cars there. I'm like, no, stop lying to me. He's like, no. I'm like, great. So now I'm thinking in my head, hopefully they don't know, like somehow link it to me. So I didn't go to sleep either. And I'm just waiting, and I'm waiting. They end up coming to her house. And you know how they found out to come to her house? Because the manager who runs that McDonald's knew her by first name. And her name is, I'm not going to put her name out there, obviously, but it was a unique name and she's been in some trouble before. So they're like, well, let's go pop over her house and see what's going on there. So they show up, and I'm still leaking from my head at the time. And they took us down to the police station. And
Did they like swarm the house? Or are they treating you like a hostile?
it was only a couple cop cars, because at the time they didn't have much to go off of. You know, the police were called, somebody got stabbed, and, you know, they didn't really have much to go off of. So they pulled us down to the police station.
What do you think why do you think that your first reaction was to get out of the car and fight with them just because they were instigating with you? Why not just drive off? Do you think that goes back to how your stepfather treated you when he was angry, and that kind of like kicked in with you?
I mean, I always had a lot of built up anger in me, and I like to, you know, sometimes I would like to fight. Like, it was just instilled in me, you know what I mean? Like, especially when times that I couldn't fight back, you know, like, so, you know, being 14 years old, someone who's, you know, my stepfather at the time, he's a 250-pound man, 6'5". He's a big dude, you know, like, definitely instilled, put a lot of fear in me for sure.
So there's a correlation between the two incidents.
Yeah, I would say so. I'm for sure, you know.
I just think we're quick as society to judge someone based on their actions in that moment without hearing the backstory and why a person is the way they are.
Mm.
Not that it's wrong or right or whatever, you know, but it just that moment we want to know as individuals what caused you to get out of that car.
At the time, like, fight or flight. I mean, yeah, I'm sure a lot of, you know, my childhood trauma has something to do with it, I'm sure, you know. But
So what do you end up? They charge you, I'm guessing, right at the station.
no. So they didn't have enough to go off of. So this is a pretty funny story. So I just told you what happened, the whole story there. Now, I'm not going to tell the police that, yeah, I stabbed somebody in the head with my own knife. You know, I'm still somewhat of a criminal at the time. I'm on parole. So I tell her a story to tell them, you know, yes, we did get out, and, you know, you did have a wrench, you hit her, you know, you guys fought. And when I went to break it up, he hit me, we tussled. I grabbed whatever he had in his hand, and I hit him back with it. And that's the story that I gave the police. I was in and out of the interview room with them in probably a half hour. They brought me out and brought her in, and I was sitting around waiting. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, great, she's telling the whole thing, which sure enough she did, which, you know, you're getting interrogated by the police. You know, they're going to push you. They're going to want the truth. They're going to want to know. So they got it out of her. She ended up telling them where the knife was, where I threw it. But they couldn't arrest me right there. So after they interrogated her, they brought me back in, sat me back down. They said, Brandon, you don't want to tell us the true story? I'm like, I told you my story. He was like, you sure it wasn't a knife? I'm like, yes, I'm sure it wasn't a knife. I said, I told you my story. I'm standing on that, like knowing I'm obviously lying at the time. But I said, well, if you're not going to arrest me, then I need my keys and my wallet so I could go. He said, you could have your wallet, but we impounded your car. It was used in we're taking it as a police investigation. So they ended up taking my car that I just had gotten at the time too. Yeah.
And that's when they put everything together and they...
Well, they had to let me go because they didn't have, you know, they still had to work their case. And they ended up coming about 2 weeks. It's about 2 weeks after. I would call the detective and like, dude, are you guys coming to get me or what? Yeah, I'm calling. Like, I need to know. Like, I'm still trying to work a little bit. Are you going to come and get me?
Yeah.
So they end up coming and getting me, and they arrested me, charged me in assault first. And I was on parole at the time. I made bond.
They gave you bond still?
Made bond. I got out, and I had to go turn myself into parole 2 days later.
And then they booked you on parole.
Yep, I had to go sit in Big Cheshire, level 4, because it was an assault first. It's a Class A or Class B felony.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go to a maximum security for 6 months.
Wow.
Until my parole was up, and then I had to, they ended up letting me walk out the door from there.
But then you're still fighting the other case.
As I was going back and forth to court for that case.
Isn't it crazy how it works in the state system where it's like you can literally be on bond for one case, they can get it revoked, or you could, it's just like, it's so complicated.
It is.
When you look at it, and like people that get arrested multiple times, when you like look in the Connecticut database or whatever, you could see like 6 different charges. One says bond, one says no bond. Like it's super complicated.
Yeah.
So how much time do you end up getting for that?
So I ended up, they wanted to give me 12 years. And, you know, thank God for my mom, because she's been my rock, like I said. And she was the one that posted my bail for that. It cost her $7,000. And then for the lawyer, I think we paid almost $10,000. She actually just got at the time that I got bonded out, she just had gotten a lawsuit or something. I forgot exactly what it was. But she used that money to come and bond her son out, you know? And they ended up wanting to give me 12 flat, but I ended up copping out to 12, suspended after 7 with 5 years probation.
How is this not a self-defense case?
You know, I could have really tried to push it, but my lawyer told me, he said, you know, Brandon, we might not win because I have to prove that he actually hit you in the head with a wrench. I'm like, what more proof do you need? I have pictures of my head leaking. I still have those same pictures to this day.
But it would have to do with the order of the attack, right? Because then he could argue that he hit you after you stabbed him.
He could, yeah, because back then, I mean, this was in 2005, 2006, I think it was, when I called my case. You know, the camera system might not have been as good. You know, could we go based off of that?
Looking back on it now, do you wish you took it to trial?
I mean, it would change my path in life right now. So, I mean, maybe I would have got out sooner and did something else that might have landed me back there or dead.
Did your ex go to prison at all for this or no?
No, she got probation.
And do you think you would have gotten probation had you not had a record before?
No, because it's still an assault first.
Okay.
Which, and when I copped out, they dropped it to an assault second. But, you know.
What about the guy that attacked you? Did he go to jail at all?
No. They contacted him, and in his statement, it said he wanted me to do 20 years at least.
See, that's the thing that sucks about, like, having a record is that he automatically becomes the victim,
Mhm.
and then you automatically become the fall guy, and you guys can both be equally responsible. But because of your record, that's held over you.
You look worse.
Yeah, it makes you
For
look
sure.
like the worst guy.
Which, you know, I mean, it should have never happened altogether, if we're being honest. You know, because I don't really go out looking for trouble, even though, yes, I do like, you know, I have that rage in me. But I know that, so I limit myself from that stuff. That's why I don't go out to this day. I don't like to be, I don't go out to bars. I don't do any of that stuff.
Nothing ever good comes from those late night things.
Oh, anything, it's crazy.
Drunk drivers,
Yeah.
fights at bars. I don't know how people do the same club every weekend until 2 a.m. I can't do it. I used to be like that, but I
Yeah,
can't
we all
do it.
did,
Yeah.
you know, but that's just a phase.
Yeah.
I feel it was for me, you know. So
You went when you get out after those 6 years.
I got out in 2012.
Okay.
It was, you know, 11 years ago.
What were some challenges when you got out?
Man, you know what's crazy? I went back to the same halfway house. Yep.
A redo, yeah. That's my biggest fear, redoing what I went through.
Yep. Went back to the same halfway house. I went to the same job working at the same fish market. They allowed me to go back there and, you know, started my life over again. I ended up meeting now who is my wife. We actually had mutual friends and we just went out for coffee and that was it. We've been together ever since.
Wow. Were there any challenges of her finding out about your record?
No, she, you know, we knew each other when we were younger, like, because we all have, like, kind of the same friend group. So she knew of me. She knew my, you know, I've been to jail. She knew even when we started talking, I just came home recently, too. So she was fresh out of a bad relationship and, you know, we just came together and now we're still here.
Were there any challenges from her family, like judging you before maybe even meeting you or anything like that because of your record?
I didn't really let her sisters know, you know, of my past and being in prison and stuff like that. Her mother and father, not so much, but, you know, over time, I, you know, relayed some of that information to them so that, you know, I didn't just drop it on them like that. You know, I don't, because it's a touchy subject sometimes. People automatically judge you like, oh, you've been to jail, you've been to prison. You're just, you know, you're nobody, you're nothing, you're, you know, you get that label.
Yeah. Actions speak louder than words too in those situations. Takes a lot though to show someone that you're different and that you can change.
Well, I mean, for me, I've had so many, you know, challenges in my life and to where I am today, you know, it was hard, man, because I've come home with not much help, you know, and I've built myself up to then lose it again, to then come home to have to rebuild myself again, to then, you know, it's like, how many times am I going to keep going down this path until I can, like, really step back and you know, limit myself from going back to jail or, you know, I ended up having another falling out too, where I ended up hurting my leg really bad, and I ended up going to a doctor, and they ended up prescribing me pain medication, and I partied and stuff, and I loved, you know, going out, drinking, smoking weed and stuff like that, but I never really was addicted or, you know, come to the have to wake up every day to take drugs. But I ended up in that situation too, which was another, it's like, man, how many times am I going to fall down?
In life, yeah.
You know, and it's a lot of it, you know, I hold myself accountable, you know, to this day. But I ended up, you know, pain medication became hard to find. And I ended up having a buddy who was trying to find me some, and he's like, you know, I didn't want to offer you, but I do have some dope. and I was sick, and I'm like, all right, that kind of spiraled into a whole nother thing too, which I had to dig myself back up out of.
Your life's just been a series of up and down and up and down. I'm really glad you made it through it though,
Thank you.
because not a lot of people can make it through it. And you just like you have like that aroma to you that like you've been through shit, but like you could tell when you meet someone the way they carry themselves and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have that tough, edgy look to you. Yeah, but like you're just a man that's experienced pain that and you've worked through it. How do you like keep it together through those moments where you might want to get provoked for something? Like to keep the anger in. Does that ever really go away or have you worked through that? What's that like?
My outlet has been going to the gym. It was my outlet even when I was in prison. I would work out. Like anybody that seen me all the time, that was my thing. Like that's how I take my frustrations out. I go to the gym and I don't have to think about anything. I go there and it's like my getaway. It's helped me a lot. So but that's one that always keeps me grounded.
Yeah.
And repetition. I don't. It's like how when you're in jail you have a schedule that you have. It's every day's the same. You wake up, put your slippers on, you go get your coffee, it's the same thing. You wash your clothes on the certain days. You keep that same type of schedule. You keep it basic. That's what I did, and that's what I still do to this day. You can't rush anything. That's for sure.
What's life for you? What's life like for you now?
Oh, it's great. I have my son. He's 4. I work, and I mean everything is good. I can't complain. I'm just glad that I could wake up every day because I have a lot of friends too that didn't make it. That died from drug overdoses, countless numbers, and especially in my town, it's crazy the amount of people. Over the course of the last 20 years, I don't have enough fingers and toes to count on, and it just seems like it was almost a product of our environment. We grew up in broken homes and we had parents that were, partying and maybe even using drugs. And, I would have to, sometimes we would come home and no one's home. And I'm like, well, mom's not here. She'd be at the bar with her friends. I got to go over there to get some money so that we could go get something to eat or whatever the case may be. Because back in the 90s, it's not like today. We were latchkey kids. I don't know if you heard the terminology before.
No, never.
No? So basically, you come home after school and no one's there. You have your own key to get in and you do your own thing because you took care of your own self. That's what a latchkey kid is. You raise your own self because your parents are either working or, and plus it was different then. I wouldn't leave my son home by himself now.
What do you want the biggest lesson to be for your son from your story? Like if he watches this, 10 years from now, what do you want him to learn from you?
The dad was never a quitter.
That's good. I like that. And what about for the people watching? Maybe people that are experiencing the rocky roads of life and going through shit and feel like they can't catch a break and getting knocked down all the time. What do you want them to know?
There's light at the end of the tunnel, even though it's a pinhole. And in my darkest days, when I didn't want to keep going, you just got to dig deep and you got to really, really dig deep and try and, always better yourself. Find things that make you happy, and just keep striving because no matter what you do, you're always going to feel like it's never enough. You could always be doing better, and if you're stuck in those type of situations, when you're doing good, good comes, doors will open. They do. People like to hear your story. If you've been through a lot of shit, honestly, that's what makes you who you are, you know? So I would just keep pushing, and you can't stop, you know?
Now, something you brought up earlier is that you're starting to get into content and getting your story out there. Why are you feeling more comfortable talking about it now after all these years?
Well, so, I came home in 2012 and I did time, early 2000s. It's like we didn't have TikTok and all that type of stuff. I do like to help people, because people tell me all the time that, like, Brandon, you're so strong. I don't know how'd you keep going? How? Sometimes I don't know. I just go. You know what I mean? I can't stop because there's friends and family who want me to keep going, you know? They always have been rooting for me. And the people who aren't here, I think of them, childhood friends that we were supposed to grow old and, see each other do good in life.
That's good, man. Well, Brandon, thank you for coming on the show today. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for trusting me to share your story with the world. We'll plug in your social media in the description for people to check out your stuff, and if you need any advice or help. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, people really feel a connection with our guests, and they like to go follow them and check out what they're doing and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, people do. They like to hear the comeback story. I'm that comeback story, man. I can never go back. All the shit that I've been through in my life, like, there's no turning back for me now. Like, I work every day and I strive to be better. That's all I can do.
Yeah. No, you're gonna make your son proud, man. You really are, and just keep pushing and keep being you.